Good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, staff. Thank you very much for joining us this evening for this special committee of the whole. It's a planning meeting. I see that we have quorum, and I call this meeting to order. I do appreciate and see that some members of the public are signing in. I would encourage you to do that, and please feel free to do that if you haven't done that already. It's important for you to do that so that you'll receive the various documents that come out of this meeting. So the first item of business is the agenda for the, and it should say Councillor Papp was here earlier. He had to leave for a moment. He will be coming back. You might expect him to come in the middle of the meeting. So, but we do expect and we do have quorum and we can start our meeting. So it has been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley, that the agenda for the December 9th, 2013 special meeting of Committee of the Whole be adopted as circulated. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item of business is disclosure of pecuniary interest. That is any conflicts of interest, and I wonder if any members of council have any conflicts that they need to disclose. Can that be noted in the minutes, please? Thank you. Now we'll move to a public meeting under the Planning Act. The first is regarding amendment to rezone the lands to permit a dog park. Planning Act requires under Section 3412 the council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public of proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw. This public meeting has been called to satisfy these requirements. Notice of this meeting was provided by prepaid first-class mail to all persons who are listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 120 meters of the subject property on November 18th, 2013. The notice provided information on the property and proposed amendment to zoning bylaw 1136 as amended. In addition, planning staff providing information on the application. We also receive any comments from any member of the public who may wish to offer them. There is an attendance list, as I spoke about earlier, at the table, and we'd ask all present to print their name and complete mailing address if they wish to be notified of the passage of any amendment by council should this occur. If a person or public body decides to file an appeal of a decision made by council in respect to the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw and does not make oral submission at a public meeting like this evening, or make written submissions to the town of Pelham before the proposed amendment is adopted or refused, the Ontario Municipal Board may dismiss all or part of that appeal. In closing, I stress at this point, no decision has been made on any proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and therefore any comments received will be taken into consideration by council this evening and in the future. So the first is the, as I mentioned, the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw to permit a dog park. First, we have the applicant's presentation, and I presume that is our planner, Ms. Smythe.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, members of committee and council, and those members here at the public. On tonight's agenda, the application to amend the zoning bylaw that will permit a dog park. Just to give you some context, the subject lands are located on the east side of Center Street, lying north of Highway 20 West. The legal description of the subject parcel is described as Concession 7, Lot 9, Registered Plan 59R8378, Part 1. The parcel is a former regional waste disposal landfill site and now sits vacant. The parcel is surrounded by mineral resource extraction, Lafarge, Canada, and some agricultural uses to the north, single detached residential to the east, commercial and single detached residential to the south, as well as open space, Peninsula Lakes Golf Course to the west. In Niagara, there are two other retired municipal landfills that have been repurposed as naturalization sites, one being the Glen Ridge Quarry in St. Catharines. Amenities include trails and dog parks, picnic areas, and in Elm Street in Port Colborne. Same type of amenities, a leash-free dog park with separate areas for small and large dogs. When considering the zoning amendment application, the following current planning legislation is referenced to determine if the proposed amendment adheres to the policies and regulations. For instance, the parcel is located outside of the Niagara Escarpment Plan area, and therefore those policies do not apply in this circumstance. The parcel is located in the Greenbelt Plan area and classified as protected countryside specialty agricultural. Considering this is a retired landfill site, it could not be used for the productive agricultural purposes, and therefore, under section 5.3 of the Greenbelt Plan, it provides municipalities and decision makers on planning applications to adopt policies that are more stringent than requirements of the plan. With respect to the provincial policy statement, section 1.1.1 states that healthy, livable, and safe communities are sustained by accommodating an appropriate range and mix of recreational and open space uses to meet long-term needs. Furthermore, section 1.5.1 states that healthy, active communities should be promoted by providing for a full range and equitable distribution of public, accessible, and built natural settings for recreation, including facilities, parklands, and open space areas. Please note that in the information report, it does make reference to the Regional Policy Plan Amendment 2-2009 and identifies the subject parcel lying in the urban area, when in fact the parcel does lie within the unique agricultural area. This information will be corrected and referenced in the forthcoming recommendation report.
Thank you.
In the meantime, policy 6.8.8 of the regional plan, it states that non-agricultural usage shall not be permitted in unique agricultural areas. However, if there is a non-agricultural development being proposed, there should be a demonstration for the need and the desirability of the proposed use to the community. The current official plan designates the parcel as mineral resource extraction and environmental constraint area. Under policy 1.27, mineral resource extraction designation includes the extraction and processing of sand and gravel, and under policy 1.45, the environmental constraint area designation is known for solid waste disposal sites and area of influence of these sites. The adopted but not yet approved official plan designates the subject parcel as closed landfill site and specialty agricultural. According to section B2.2 of the specialty agricultural designation, the primary focus is for the production of a full range of specialty crops. Again, in this circumstance, the subject parcel was used for a landfill waste disposal site and in no way can ever be utilized for an agricultural or specialty crop production. Under section C9, development of new uses or new and enlarged buildings or structures within an assessment of 500 meters from any fill area of a closed site may be permitted provided an assessment is complete. The assessment is intended to address matters such as groundwater and surface water contamination, noise, odor, and compatibility in nature and do not adversely impact each of them. For community's information, the Ministry of the Environment must officially authorize any use of the lands, and the region has confirmed that the Ministry has provided clearance of the proposed dog park in October of this year. The lands are identified as extractive industrial M3 according to the town's zoning bylaw 1136/1987 as amended. The permitted uses include making of or establishment of pits and quarries for the purposes of extracting natural minerals from the earth, including soil, clay, sand, gravel, stone, rock, as well as agricultural uses, buildings and structures accessory thereto. In accordance with the Planning Act requirements for public participation, the formal public notice for this proposal was issued on November 18th. During the 20-day notice period, no formal comments have been received from the public with respect to this proposal. In addition to this notice, the application was also circulated to the internal departments of the town and external agencies having an interest. The town's internal departments, as well as the external agencies, including the Region and Conservation Authority, have no objections to the amendment. To reiterate, the intent of this meeting tonight on the agenda is to provide you, the members of council and committee, as well as those in the public gallery, an opportunity to receive this information and not to make any formal decisions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smythe, for your overview of the application. Wonder if there's any questions from members of committee with Ms. Smythe's overview specifically, not opinions, just questions if there's a point of clarity. Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering, the location of this is very close to the ANSI boundaries, and that is there any connection between the ANSI boundaries just received by the Ministry of Natural Resources in this particular property?
Mr. Chair, yes, this parcel is actually excluded from the ANSI boundary.
Okay, so there won't be any impact.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any others? There being none, thank you very much. Now, I wonder if there's any comments or questions, I guess comments from members of the public regarding the proposed change, either in favor or against. Going a second time? Third time? Okay, thank you. Can that be noted? We do have some correspondence from Lafarge, which is an adjacent neighbor, regarding that. Perhaps we should receive that, and then we'll seek input from members of committee or questions from committee, okay? Oh, different on the agenda, I apologize. So now we're going to hear from members of committee. Any questions, comments, input from members of committee regarding the proposal? Okay, none? So now we move on to...
Presentation of resolutions.
Yes. Thank you. Any correspondence? Oh, here it is.
Yes. Two resolutions.
So you'd rather deal with this one first?
You can switch it if you'd like. Receiving a report.
Councillor Papp? Do you have any conflicts of interest that you'd like to note, Councillor Papp, with this meeting? Okay, thank you very much. It's been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor Durley, that the Committee of the Whole receive the issue summary report regarding the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw to permit a dog part, application file number AM0413 for information, and further that committee directs planning staff to prepare a recommendation report and present it to the committee at a future meeting. Any discussion regarding this? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. We do have that item of correspondence, and it has been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor King, that the correspondence received at the public meeting held on December 9th regarding an application for zoning bylaw amendment AM0413, the dog park, be received for information of committee and referred to the Director of Planning and Development Services as follows. Chris Galloway from Lafarge, Canada. Any discussion? Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. There being no further input regarding that particular planning development or application, that portion of the meeting is closed. Now we'll move to the next item. And this is regarding the proposed establishment of a fuel station along Pelham Street. The Planning Act requires under Section 22 and Section 34 that council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public of the proposed amendment to the official plan and zoning bylaw. This public meeting has been called to satisfy these requirements. Notice of this meeting was provided by prepaid first-class mail to all persons who are listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 120 meters of the subject property on November 15th, 2013. The notice provided information on the property and the proposed amendment to the official plan and to the zoning bylaw. In addition, planning staff providing information on the application will also receive any comments which any of the members of the public may wish to offer. As I mentioned at the start of the meeting, there is an attendance list on the table, and we would ask all present to print their name and complete mailing address if they wish to be notified of the passing of amendments by council, should this occur. If a person or public body decides to file an appeal of a decision made by council in respect to the proposed amendment to the official plan and zoning bylaw, should it occur, and does not make oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Pelham before the proposed amendments are adopted or refused, the Ontario Municipal Board may dismiss all or part of the appeal. In closing, I stress at this point no decision has been made and on the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendments, and therefore any comments received will be taken into account by council for their consideration. So first, we hear from Ms. Smythe. Do you have a presentation as well? And then the applicant may have a presentation. Ms. Smythe?
Thank you again, Chair, members of Committee and Council, and those in the gallery. Again, I'm here to present the application for the proposed development of that site located on the southwest corner of Pelham Street and Welland Road, municipally referred as 1022 Pelham Street, for the proposal of a gas station, oil change facility, and retail commercial development. To provide with some context and brief history of the parcel, I can inform you that the parcel is currently vacant and surrounded by institutional, the Concordia Lutheran Church, and semi-residential to the north of the parcel, commercial and residential to the east, vacant woodlot to the south, and single detached residential immediately to the west. The subject parcel was subject to an Ontario Municipal Board decision made in March of 1991 that granted a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone approximately 5,882 meters squared, so 1.45 acres of the land, from a residential development zone to a neighborhood commercial zone. That also included a gas bar station as a permitted use. The balance of the lands was then zoned agricultural. When considering the official plan and zoning amendment applications, again, we have to adhere to the current planning legislation, and I reference the following. The Greenbelt and Niagara Escarpment Plan areas, the subject parcel is located outside of those areas, and therefore those policies are not applicable in this circumstance. With respect to the provincial policy statement, it speaks to the matter of building strong communities and efficient land use and development patterns to support strong, livable and healthy communities, to protect the environment and public health and safety, and to facilitate economic growth. The policy statement identifies settlement areas as the focus of growth, promoting their vitality and regeneration. Section 1.3.1, with respect to employment areas, the policy statement requires the provision of economic development and competitiveness by providing an appropriate mix and range of employment, including industrial, commercial, and institutional uses to meet the long-term needs, providing opportunities for a diversified economic base, including maintaining a range and choice of suitable sites for employment uses, would support a wide range of economic activities and auxiliary uses, and take into account the needs of existing and future businesses, planning for, protecting, and preserving employment areas for current and future uses, and ensuring the necessary infrastructure is provided to support current and projected needs. Under Section 2.3.5, planning authorities may remove land from prime agricultural areas for the expansion or intensification of settlement areas if the lands do not compromise specialty crops and if there's no reasonable alternatives to avoid the prime agricultural land, and if no reasonable alternative on lower priority agricultural lands in prime agricultural areas. With respect to the places to grow growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the subject parcel falls within the built boundary of the growth plan. And again, the policies are all about building complete communities that are well designed, offer transportation choices, accommodate people at all stages of life, and have the right mix of housing, a good range of jobs, and easy access to stores and services to meet daily needs. To ensure the better use of land and infrastructure can be made, the plan directs growth with increasing intensification to existing built-up areas. Section 7 defines intensification as a development of a property, site, or area at a higher density than currently exists through 1, either redevelopment, including the reuse of brownfields, 2, the development of vacant and or underutilized lots within previously developed areas, 3, infill development, and lastly, the expansion or conversion of existing buildings. According to the Regional Policy Plan Amendment 2-009, the policies relate to providing vibrant, sustainable, and complete communities, and to maximize the use of existing and planned infrastructure to support growth in a compact and efficient manner. Specifically, section 5.2, under commercial, it encourages the municipality to have convenient, attractive, and economically viable shopping facilities within its boundaries to meet the needs and desires of its residents. According to section 1.17 of the current official plan, it designates the parcel as urban residential. The permitted uses include single-family residential, multi-family residential of various kinds and apartments, associated institutional such as schools, churches, parks, and that are also permitted under the designation. The adopted but not yet approved official plan designates the subject parcel as urban highway commercial and greenfield overlay. Under section B14 of the adopted plan, the urban highway commercial designation permits the following uses: auto service and sales, restaurants, drive-throughs, accommodation facilities, supermarkets, wholesale establishments, institutional uses, automotive-related products, home improvement materials, hardware, nursery, garden supply products. Under section B18 of the Greenfield Overlay designation, it is in accordance with the provincial growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe and the Places to Grow under the Places to Grow Act 2006. It is a provincial and regional requirement that lands identified as greenfield be developed in such a manner as to attain a minimum population employment density of 50 people and jobs per hectare. Though the town's greenfield target is 50 people and jobs per hectare, it may not be realized in every site and may not be achieved to that target, and therefore there's the flexibility that the town has on a site-by-site basis. The parcel is zoned NC-108 according to the town's zoning bylaw 1136/1987 as amended. The permitted uses and forming part of the Ontario Municipal Board order received on March 26 in 1991 shall include a gas bar station and the following permitted uses: banks, barber shops, beauty salons, business and professional offices, convenience retail stores, public and private parking areas, restaurants, studios, agencies and salons. Uses in buildings and structures accessory to those permitted uses, and additionally, one residential unit is permitted accessory and located above the ground floor of each commercial use. In accordance with the Planning Act requirements for the public participation, you had indicated that the formal public notice was issued on November 15th to all properties within the 120 meters, 400 feet to the subject parcel, as well as a public notice poster was placed on the lands fronting Pelham Street and Welland Road. During the 20-day notice period, several comments have been received from numerous members of the public. To summarize some of the concerns that have been brought to the planning staff's attention, they include traffic safety, noise and lighting affecting adjacent residents, and the buffering, privacy fencing, required roadway changes as a result of the proposal, hours of operation, how many bays, overnight parking, environmental impacts, was there a market study, and the need for the development. Some of this information can be addressed by the applicant who is here this evening. And if there are any additional questions or concerns, I can try to answer them as well. So in addition to the public notice, again, the application was circulated to the internal departments as well as external agencies having an interest. The town's internal departments, as well as the external agencies, including the Region and Conservation Authority, have no objections to the proposed amendments. To reiterate, the purpose of the official plan amendment is to have the designation and the applicable permitted uses and policies of the current plan to be consistent with the designation and policies of the adopted plan, which conforms to the provincial legislation. Furthermore, the amendment will then align with the town's direction and vision for a vibrant and creative and caring community. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to zone the entire parcel as the neighborhood commercial site-specific NC-108 to allow for the gas bar station, the retail commercial, and oil change facility. To conclude, again, the intent of the meeting tonight is just for information only and to gather as much concerns, issues that the proposal may have with respect to council, committee, and members of the public. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation and that summary report. You had indicated that the applicant is here, or an agent of the applicant, and they wanted to add to it. Did you want to add to the presentation, sir? Would you please come up to the podium and state your name and who you're working for, and an address where we can get a hold of you?
Yeah, no problem. I've signed in, so.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, Charles Dyer. I'm the owner of, or co-owner of Sovereign Asset Management, so we are the current landowners. We purchased the property, we closed the transaction about 3 weeks ago, I guess.
Okay.
And so we are the proponents. Yeah, we're a land developer that takes a lot of pride in our developments. We typically are holders of our assets. We're not, we've developed properties mainly in southern Ontario, but also as far as, we're doing a project in St. John's, Newfoundland right now, for example. So yeah, we're excited to be investing in the town of Fonthill and Pelham. We really are. We are working with some tenants that specifically really want to be here. Want to provide jobs and tax base to the town as well. And they feel, I know you had mentioned something about a market study and whatnot, and I just want to assure everybody that the two tenants that have confirmed that they want to be here are actually quite sophisticated in that area, and this intersection has modeled quite well actually and they're very excited to be opening up business here. We plan to do a first-class development. That'll be, I think, come through the site planning process. You'll see that like I say, we hold our properties. We don't just build them and flip them and leave town. So we're excited about building a project that is, I think, that we will be proud of, but more importantly, the town will be proud of, and that will fit in as best as we possibly can with the neighborhood. So. Other than that, I don't want to be too long-winded. I'm basically here to answer any questions that either the public or the committee has.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions at this point for either Ms. Smythe or for Mr. How do you say it, Dyer? Is that how you say it?
Yes, Dyer.
Yeah. Mr. Dyer? Councillor Kersey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. It certainly seems that all of the policies are in place to support this development in the amendment. And I have no problem with that. However, when I look at the figures that we were given that represent the development or the proposed development, it raises some concerns in my mind, principally around the fact that this is a gateway to Pelham from the south. And we are trying to develop or are working on having a particular look to our gateways. And I just wonder how amenable you would be to taking a look at reworking the site such that we wouldn't have this vast parking lot right out front. We've been looking at a lot of street face commercial, putting the parking lots more into the rear, not hampering the accessibility to the gas station area, but presenting a very high standard to our gateway.
Sure.
As opposed to a large parking lot saying, here's a gas station, welcome to Pelham. So that's one question that I have for you.
Mr. Dyer?
Yeah, we are going to be addressing, again, that'll be addressed at the site plan stage, I
Right.
think. I can tell you our tenant, both the confirmed tenants at this point, and by the way, we have binding agreements with them, so this isn't just pie in the sky. They want to be here. They have very specific site plan requirements to make their sites work economically. Having said that, Susan's been great to work with. We are going to be doing some landscaping, some features, some things that are going to, I think, address a lot of those concerns, especially with regard to that corner, because we know that corner is a prominent corner. Whether it's architectural features, landscaping features, screening, those kinds of things, I think we can achieve a lot of that with the design. But those are things that, yes, we echo the concern. We want it to be, like I said, a project that everybody can be proud of. and has that gateway look, while also, you know, the tenants that are going to be there are, you know, obviously are in business, and they have to be competitive, and they have to, and they, you know, quite frankly, they've done a lot of work and research, and they know how their sites work best. So we have to, I guess, balance both, and we plan to do that, though.
Thank you. Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I know this will be addressed at the site plan stage as well, a site plan agreement, but looking at that map, there are several houses, 4 or 5 at least, that will be directly abutting the rear end of that. Their backyards will be in your backyard there. I'm confident that you have a good plan for some sort of buffer so that impact will be minimal or not existent to those existing properties, and you will deal with that through the site plan agreement. I just would like some assurance of that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, obviously fencing, screening, lighting, directional lighting. Security is obviously an issue on any commercial development, but we'll make sure that the lighting is focused on the site, and there's ways to do that. I don't know if you have in the presentation the renderings,
I do.
because there is.
No, that's not it. This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would be looking right from the intersection, and you can see, now these are preliminary renderings, obviously, but we want to give the architecture a high quality look to it. So yes, to answer that question on the rear, absolutely, we'll be screening that. I mean, again, you're right, that'll be at the site plan stage, but we are very cognizant of the neighborhood, and we want to be good neighbors. So absolutely.
Further to that, a couple of the activities that are going to be taking place there sometimes generate some noise. How can we look to mitigate any noise that may infiltrate into the residential neighborhood?
Well, one thing I would like to address, and I think it came out of one of the letters, they were concerned about the oil change facility. That's a rapid lube type place. You know, it's actually Pro Oil Change that's going in there. They have a facility in St. Catharines that we've built for them. They do not use compressors and that kinds of tools. It's all what I'd call, first of all, the doors are always down when they're working on the cars, and but there's not a lot of what you call mechanics activity. It's typically very low noise, and it's also up against. That's why we've located it there. We've put it up against Pelham Street to keep it away from the residential area with the gas station. The other uses at the back, we're still negotiating with a number of tenants. It'll be a typical use, a typical mix of, you know, restaurants, retail, but fairly low, what I call fairly low impact. And I wouldn't expect there to be a lot of noise generated, but like I say, we'll screen it, we'll screen it the best we can.
I saw an article on Pro Oil Change things on Marketplace a couple of weeks ago. Thank you.
What's that? Oh, did you? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're expanding very rapidly right now.
Other questions for the presenter? Councillor Papp?
Well, I guess you're sort of addressing that. You haven't finalized tenants for the back areas yet, right? So you've got two tenants right now. One is the oil change,
Right.
and I presume the other one would be the gas station.
That's right. Those ones are the confirmed ones. And we're also negotiating with a major retailer to take about 9,000 feet. So I can't say who it is at this point. But
Oh, I understand that,
yeah.
yeah. So is the idea to construct a pole or just to
No,
do it in stages?
it'll be phased in 2 phases.
Two phases.
So right now, what's going ahead for sure is the Pro Oil Change
And the gas.
and the service facility and the convenience.
Sorry.
And then the other piece will happen in phase 2. That's right.
I know we'll talk more specifically about it. Is this 24/7, or is the idea to gauge it to the current market conditions? Because I know the Pioneer down the street operates somewhere like 7 days a week, but they're open till 11, and I'm just trying to get a sense of what.
I can't speak for that tenant.
Right.
My guess is it won't be a 24/7 location for them in my,
Okay.
in my, in my talks with them and our negotiations. But I don't want to, I can't speak for them for sure. But my guess is it wouldn't be.
Okay, thank you. Others? I do have a question, and maybe this is better suited to Ms. Smythe. As I look, sort of read your report and look to the property, I'm trying to discern where the agricultural is and where the OMB is. Is it, and I guess maybe it's not in the document that was distributed. It is here in the site plan. So it's sort of about 2/3 versus 1/3, is that correct?
Right. Let me, you could just bear with me for 1 minute. I'll try to get
Look at
the,
the top, the black picture down there. The
Bylaw maps.
southernmost part, away from Welland.
We have it on our drawing, kind of, but it's about half.
I'm just gonna
But
try
how
to
much
get
is
to the
that?
mapping.
Is it a quarter? Is it a third? Is it
It's about half and half.
Yeah.
at the moment.
half and half?
Yeah, I don't have one on here right now.
Well, I'm looking at this plan. I don't know if this was distributed to
Yeah,
all.
that's- you can see
So
a
it's
dotted
sort of
line
this,
on there.
where this line is
That's
that
right.
correct? So the
That's
site's here?
Yeah,
I was
Okay.
looking for the zoning mapping that
Yeah.
has it.
Okay, and I have the zoning map on my,
Like it's at least 40% agricultural.
so, okay, so if this is it's here, it's this section, and this is the whole site. Like,
Correct.
this is the part that's currently zoned that way, it's the back part, so, Ms. Smythe, I think we have it.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm
really
trying to look for the zoning mapping, could give you a better indication as to the ratio, but
Okay. So in essence, the application before us
yes,
is it to rezone the entire piece, or just this part here on the bottom that's
it's
agricultural?
primarily to rezone that bottom half for the whole of the lands to be under that site-specific NC 108.
Okay,
Yes.
And to bring it in conformance with the new official plan.
And that's the reason for the amendment to the official plan, because the current official plan does not allow for this type of development to be there. However, the adopted official plan, that's been approved but under appeal, does allow for this to be there,
but only,
of use,
but under this part or the whole part?
under the whole part.
Under
The
the whole
whole
part.
site is designated as urban highway commercial.
Okay, all right. And then the final question, you had it up there earlier, there's a line on the bottom, maybe you can, I don't know if you can get it, but just wondering if that's a road allowance. Is that a road allowance?
To the
Like
very
town-
south,
Yeah,
yes, it is.
and that goes through. Okay, just for looking for clarity on that. I
So
appreciate that.
just for information too, this entire parcel is located within the urban area within the town of Fawn Hill. Or sorry, town of Pelham. Fawn
The
Hill.
Fawn Hill urban
Yes,
boundary.
Yes, Fawn Hill urban boundary.
Okay.
What's the total site? How many acres is
The total acreage, do you know?
2.8, I believe, approximately.
And then the existing is 1.45. Yeah, okay. 2.8? That's important. Okay, thank you. Those were just points of clarity.
Can I make just one more?
Go ahead,
point,
sir.
I guess. Yeah, before obviously we had pre-consultation meetings with Susan and various staff. And when we did our research on it, we went ahead with this project on the basis that the new OP that the town obviously is trying to get adopted, anticipated this type of development. So we are not in the business of trying to, rezone land that shouldn't be rezoned. That's not the way I like to do it. So that's why when we came, to Susan and whatnot, this seemed to make sense. And so now we're trying to bring that in. If my understanding is correct, if we waited for the adoption of the OP, it would be a very different process.
Ms. Smythe?
Yes, Mayor. So if we were optimistic and everything was to be approved and no appeals and the official plan would have been forced into effect, essentially we wouldn't have to undertake the official plan amendment.
Right.
It would have strictly have been
Been a
a
zoning.
zoning amendment, just to capture the
bring it in line
balance
with the
of the
OP.
agricultural portion into the site-specific neighborhood commercial zone.
Okay, that's helpful.
So I just wanted to make that point because we're not, as a developer, we're not asking the town to do something that the town hadn't already kind of designated, I guess is what I'm trying
Okay,
to say. Yeah.
thank you for that. Any further questions for the, Councillor Pap?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Smythe, did you say that the agency, that the region of Niagara, right in the report, their comments are pending, they have already submitted? And they,
Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
Yes, verbal communication with the
Right.
regional representation, as well as the pre-consultation, in order to engage into the
Right.
next step. We've received those comments in support of the application.
So they have no
But the
objections.
actual formal written, they're a little understaffed at the moment, so they had indicated it'll definitely be here prior to any recommendation bringing forward to committee and council.
So, so basically no,
No objections, again, through site plan.
Yeah, we'll deal with that.
If council warrants this
Okay.
approval, they'll have some direct involvement.
thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Counselor. Anything further? Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate Mr. Dyer and Ms. Smythe. And now, time for committee input, after all those questions of clarity. Pardon? Public, what did I say? Committee input. Public input, I apologize. Public input. And so, are there members of the public that would like to address committee? And if you would, I'd ask that you please come to the podium. We don't bite. We won't ask you as difficult questions as we may have asked others. Please say your name and your address, and then we look forward to hearing from you.
I guess I'm first.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
Do you want to just go here because we're to the podium?
I prefer not to have my back to folks when I'm speaking.
Okay.
Since I'm sort of, including them in my, is that okay? Can you not hear me?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
State your, yeah.
we are videotaping this, so in order to capture it on the speaker, if you want, maybe you can speak over here at one of those microphones. How's that for a compromise? Thank you.
I'm gonna make myself comfortable.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Okay.
Please
My
go ahead.
name's Maureen Jesso. I'm a resident of 6 Michaela Crescent. I'm here with a large group of friends. I'm not the spokesperson for the entire group, but I was, I guess, elected to speak first. I've lived on Michaela for 10 years now and really enjoy the neighborhood, and I hope that some of that love for my neighborhood is going to reflect in what I'm about to say today. And I'm glad that this is up in the backdrop because I'm hoping you can listen to my words, and as you're listening to what I'm saying, you have this image behind me. So I'm hoping that will stay there. Thank you. On December 7th, many neighborhood residents came together and shared their thoughts and concerns regarding this proposal. We are united in our firm belief that this proposal is not a good fit with our current community. What follows is a summary of our concerns. So as we gathered in a living room, we had lots of questions. So one of the questions that we started out with, because we're not trying to think of just us, we're trying to actually understand that this is for the greater good of the town. And we had a very, very open mind coming to this meeting. And I want you to know that. So one of our first questions was, does this development fit the vision of the town of Pelham? We're all responsible as residents for the vision, and we realize that. The town of Pelham has attempted to position itself as a community with a small town feel. When I look at that picture, I do not see small town feel. The town has made efforts and investments into the downtown core to create a quaint and charming feel. I don't see quaint and I don't see charming. Yeah.
I would ask that that just let her go through, and then others can speak. Okay.
The
Thank
town
you.
has made, from the top of Pelham Street is pleasant and attractive as you head south. That small town feeling will come to a quick halt once the neon lights of the gas station and lube shop appear. It would be an abrupt departure from the small town feel, more suitable to Niagara Street in Welland. This proposed development is to be tightly wedged amongst a church, family homes, a woodlot, and agricultural land that is currently being farmed. It does not fit the tone or level of intensification of its immediate surroundings. We are a well-established, family-oriented neighborhood, and this will stick out like a sore thumb. That, to me, is a sore thumb. We understand that the town wants to promote a walkable community, and further that staff feels that this particular proposal supports this goal. We could not disagree more. How can a gas station and oil change facility possibly promote a walkable community? No one walks to a gas station. There isn't even a sidewalk on the southerly or northerly portions of Pelham Street leading to the subject lands. If we are to make this a walkable community, let's put our best foot forward. Is a gas station oil change facility of this magnitude really our best choice? Secondly, the official plan has been mentioned several times, and we also mentioned that in our little meeting on this December 7th, and we did talk about that. We had it up on our computer, and we did read through the official plan. The new official plan has been adopted, but not yet approved, so maybe it has been approved, I'm not sure. But as such, the existing official plan must still be considered, and in part it reads as follows. This is a quote now. In order to further the development of an orderly, economic, and attractive pattern of land use, the planning area is divided into groups of complementary land uses, having related functions, and which do not ordinarily interfere with each other, constitute mutual nuisances, or hamper each other's activities. So I'd like you to think about what that's really saying. We and our neighbors maintain that this development does not conform with the goals and directives of the existing official plan, particularly the section that was just quoted. The subject lands directly abut residential and agricultural land, which again is currently farmed with annual crops, and we do not see how this can possibly be characterized as a complementary land use. We believe that possible sound and light pollution from this development will create a nuisance, which will inevitably and negatively impact the ordinary use and enjoyment of our properties. The floodlights will be shining through bedroom windows at night. The sound of pneumatic tools, although supposedly they won't be using them, but I'm not going to count on that. I'll replace that with the sound of the heavy garage doors going up and down constantly throughout the day. I'll say that will echo across the lot and disrupt our enjoyment of our outdoor properties. The fumes of the gas and oil will be ever present as we try to enjoy our yard in the summer or sleep with windows open. We strongly believe that this proposed development represents an overly intensive and inappropriate use of the subject lands, taking into consideration the character of the existing neighborhood and the scale and intensity of existing land use. When I look at the image behind me, I would say that there is absolutely nothing attractive about it. As mentioned before, that is not a gateway to our town. Thirdly, a question that came up was, is this development consistent with the goals of the planning division? We then looked that section up on the town website. And I will quote the following, which states on the website that the role of the planning division is to facilitate orderly land development, and that the health, safety, and physical and economic well-being of all of the residents is of a paramount importance. Firstly, would like to address the safety issue here. We do not see how safety or well-being are being considered, let alone prioritized, when we do not see a traffic study. Come to the corner of Michaela and Welland any weekday morning and see the volume of traffic and the number of school buses. There are a lot of children in this area, and this development with proposed exit entry points off Welland Road and Pelham Street, it will only further congest an already busy area. There are several bus stops, and I mean several bus stops. One of them stops particularly right in front of the church, which is directly in front of where one of the proposed entry and exit points are. There are several children embarking and disembarking school buses at almost the exact location of these planned exit entry points. I would now like to address the health issue. There are no health benefits to living in proximity to a gas station and an oil change facility. In fact, if the agricultural land directly abutting the southern boundary of the lot is to continue to be farmed with soy or corn crops, there should be great concern in having food produced right next to an oil change facility. The lot in question is this little piece here. This whole other section immediately to the south of it is agricultural. It is farmed every year. We do grow crops there, alternating between generally corn or soy. I'm not comfortable having food grown directly beside an oil change facility. Considering the likely decrease in property values, there is no economic gain for residents. Of course, we want our town to prosper, but we feel this is not an appropriate means by which to promote that goal. Overall, there seems to be no demand or identified need by local residents, consumers for this type of development. Considering that there is an overabundance of unrented commercial retail space in Fonthill, considering the Massimo's Plaza that is still open, considering that the two tenants, none of them are going to be into the retail space yet, it's not the best use of this land. It does not reflect well on the town to have so many visible empty storefronts. This development merely adds to that reality. So then we kind of got on a smaller scale and talked about, okay, we've talked about the bigger town. What does this really mean to us, the residents, the people who are living in this area? So the realistic impact on us: noise, traffic, toxic fumes, light pollution, potential safety issues. Maybe the town gets some tax dollars. However, we believe the overall negative impact outweighs somewhat speculative gains, economic gains. To address the issue summary report, and some of that was read previous to my speaking today, so I'll just touch on some of those points. We absolutely do not accept the assertion that the amendment will align with the town council's vision for a creative and caring community. What exactly about an oil change facility says I care? This to me is not creative. It feels like I'm going somewhere in Mississauga or something. Like, this is not hometown Fonthill. This is not why I left Welland and bought a lot in Fonthill 10 years ago. Providing an appropriate mix and range of employment opportunities. Okay, that's a stretch. That's truly a stretch. This development is not going to realistically or significantly provide any employment opportunities to the local residents. Efforts to make good use of land and intensify settlement areas. We would agree that good use of land is appropriate. However, this development is not building up an existing settlement or intensifying a current use. The subject lands are vacant, so any development meets the goal of intensification. But to jump from a vacant lot to this type of development is too much, too fast. I know you've been waiting for my conclusion. Here it comes. So, the developer bought this property knowing what it was zoned for. And before I go this, I just want to say I understand that there was some promise in some previous meetings that the official plan would change, therefore allowing it. However, the zoning is still the zoning. So to go ahead and change the official plan to allow for something like this to happen before the zoning has been changed, I feel like you've taken a backdoor into it, into the process. So I'm just saying that the developer bought the property knowing what it was zoned for and proceeded to submit a development plan that meets neither of the two current zoning criteria. I believe that was very presumptuous. The proposal simply does not fit the identity of a well-established residential neighborhood. The proposal does not meet any need as identified by the local residents of the community it is supposedly serving. The proposal causes concerns about traffic safety, light pollution, noise, and environmental impact, and a general sense of cheapening our space. The proposal is not in line with the overall vision of the town, nor does it meet the requirements of the current official plan. We're talking 40% of this parcel, approximately, currently being agricultural. And although the agricultural land in question is not designated greenbelt, it does not make it any less significant. Land is land, wildlife is wildlife, whether it's been acknowledged by legislation or not. As a community, as keepers of the land, what have we come to value? Please tell me this is not what we have come to value as keepers of the land. Are we truly valuing the potential tax dollars this development may generate as more valuable than preserving the few bits of agricultural lands meagerly interspersed throughout our neighborhoods? Not all currencies can be measured with dollar signs. Personally, I would not be proud to know that we saddled the next generation with an oil change facility in place of agricultural land. We as a neighborhood, and this came up on our meeting also, we talked about how many times we have seen deer back there, deer in our backyards. We have had wild turkeys. We've had coyotes. We don't love them, but they're part of our neighborhood. They've been on our backyards, our front yards. That is what the current environment is supporting. That is due to not just our parcel, but the agricultural land south to it and the woodlot that is right there. Once we give up our agricultural lands, we will never, ever get them back. Thank you for considering your input. We truly hope that council will reflect on the bigger picture as you make a decision that will have a permanent and significant impact on the footprint of our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you, Ms. Jessup. Thank you. Very comprehensive presentation, and I'm impressed with the research that you did on the town's website, et cetera. So thank you. Councillor Durley, you got a question for the presenter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you
Would
to
you
the
mind
presenter.
taking a question, Ms. Jessup?
I'm just wondering if you could make a copy of your presentation available for our secretary here so that we can have it for the record. You did say a lot, and I'm sure I was writing down a lot of stuff, and I'm sure I missed some, but it's there's a lot of very good information there I'd like to read.
That'd be helpful, if you wouldn't mind.
Be part of the record and the consideration when we do have a debate on that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Durley. Others, questions? Thank you very much for the presentation. We'll include that on our motion later to receive, and it will be part of the minutes of this meeting. Thank you, Councillor, for highlighting that. Are there other presenters? Thank you, sir. And you're welcome to take a seat as well. Or thank you. We do want to capture it on audio, so.
I won't be very long.
Okay, go ahead, sir. Thank you. And your name and.
My name is Greg Hubers. I'm from 8 Michaela Crescent. I also back onto the proposed lot. I've lived in Fawn Hill my whole life. I'm sure many of us here agree. We've seen lots of changes over the years. I'm proud to live in Fawn Hill. Every house I built has been here. When I chose this lot, it was specifically because in the backyard I would have this agricultural land. We designed it. We designed our backyard so that we would enjoy this. We knew there might be something down the road on the other side, but we're over this way more, so
Okay.
we wouldn't have been affected. My company also is a medium-sized construction company, local company. We specialize in things like the commercial landscaping of developments like this. We're also one of the largest installers of noise attenuation barriers in the province. I know stuff like this, when they get their phase one, it could be years and years down the road before they get to phase two. I think their phase two is part of their mitigation process for the noise and light and stuff like this. It may or may not ever come. I also know from experience developers can be extremely stingy when it comes to these finishing details, like noise walls, landscaping. These things seem to take a back seat once they get their production down. I don't want to say anything in particular to this developer, but I know the one gas station we did was at the corner of Niagara and Woodlawn. We had to put a concrete noise barrier in there because of the residential. At least that one's mitigated a bit by some of the trees. They've got some trees. Here, if it's necessary, of course the sound study would have to be concluded, you could end up with a 5-meter noise barrier behind the house. It would be wide open. As Councillor Kersey said, this is a gateway, especially when we have things like our Canada Day festivities. This is the thing that people see when they come to town, when they use the carpool across the road. You know, we have the shuttle service. This is what they're going to see. It's just something for us to consider, what kind of impression we want to make on people coming to our town. If a development does go through, I think it is the responsibility of council to make sure that the developer does do these sound studies, these traffic studies, and the light studies. It was already mentioned, I agree with everything Maureen said. There's a very busy area. There's not a lot of room for road widening and things like this, which I think would probably be necessary if this were to be a development of any substantial size. Another concern I have is you see how they've got a laneway in there. I know this is just an artist depiction, but in the future, that could be a place where people could come in there and have access to our yards. I'm thinking about, you know, thieves, things like this. It's something to consider down the road, because then we'd have increased policing costs. It might be something that we should consider at this stage. Basically, that's all I have to say. I agree with everything she said, so that's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hubers, for your presentation. Appreciate it. Any questions from members of the committee? You've been very, very succinct. Thank you very much for your presentation. Other members of the public? Great points.
I'm Connie Hubers. I'm at 8 Michaela Crescent. One thing I wanted to clarify when Mrs. Smythe was referring to the zoning. So the NC 108 on the about 50% of the land allows for a gas station, but it does not allow for an oil change facility.
Ms. Smythe, can you comment on that and answer the question?
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
That's the purpose for the amendment.
Okay, right.
It's an addition to.
Right, so it just wasn't, I just wanted to clarify that it doesn't, we as a neighborhood understand something is going to go there, but we really want to limit, that's what we're trying to say here, is that agricultural land is important, and like Maureen said, we're going from 0 to 90 here in 3.5 seconds, it feels like. It's so much so fast. So I just wanted to clarify that too.
Appreciate that. That's great clarity. Thank you very much for that. Any others? Go ahead, sir, please.
Hi there. My name is Greg McDonald, and I currently live on South Pelham at 110, and as well as I own the property next door for 101. I've grown up in this area, and it's part of why I purchased and stayed in this area is because of the quietness and the farming. But most of what the concerns I had were brought up in what this group presentation had to say. I also have children myself who catch a bus on South Pelham in front of where this proposed facility is. So I have very high concerns about the interaction that traffic's going to have with my children, as well as the heightened light and noise. But like I said, everything was already brought up prior, but I just want to concur with what's already been said.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your presentation and for informing us of that. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak?
Good evening, councillors. My name is Roman Groholski. I live at 9 Meadowvale Drive. I'm going to use some of the phrases that Mrs. Smythe used. Efficient land use, existing land users, vibrant and sustaining, I was away on holidays. I just returned the other day. I came back. I drive by this intersection every day to go home. I found it a little presumptuous to have 2 billboards there asking for leasing inquiries already, together with the posting of the meeting. I did a quick run today. Within a 2-kilometer distance, there are 20 vacant commercial units today. If you look at this development, it looks pretty close to Massimo's development on Highway 20. They've been trying to lease it for a year. The entire plaza is empty. We've been working on this Fawn Hill secondary plan for 11 years. We have a major commercial artery coming into the gateway. I don't think this development is sustainable. I understand that we probably couldn't do anything about the gas station, but for the other 50%, I was involved in the sale of that subdivision, and to some of the homeowners here, I told them it's zone residential. I think the buffer, if I might just look, the other 50% that they want to zone, a compromise might be is to higher density residential, which will shield the people on Michaela Drive. And I just want the town to think about what's going on. We can't have empty over empty over empty. It's not going to help our tax base. We're going to look worse than downtown Welland if you're going to look at just a whole bunch of brand new empty buildings. The focus for this town has been Highway 20. We've been waiting for years to get that done. You got all the commercial that you need. So if they've got approved because of the OMB decision and we can't affect that, scale it down to make a proper gas station, put some residential behind it. And it's my personal opinion. It's got nothing to do with business. I'm pro-development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Grolski, for your presentation. Appreciate that. Are there other? Please, sir, please come forward and give us your name.
Hi, my name is Murray Downey. I live at 10 Michaela. And just, first of all, just a question. The strip of land that backs on these houses, is that owned by the town? Because I know the town cuts it. Is that just because the previous owner did such a poor job of maintaining the property that the town had to take it over? Or is that just to connect it to the walkway that runs behind the other side of Michaela?
Maybe, Ms. Smythe, can we get the other map up, please? And then maybe an aerial shot, and then maybe you can point it out, sir, Mr. Downey?
This part here?
Well, actually, this piece here, the town's been cutting this strip. The town's been cutting this strip along here for the last 10 years, 12 years. Because about 8 years ago, they started cutting this strip back in here. So I'm just like, does the town actually own this strip here? Will that be a green belt area in there, or was it just?
I don't know that we have the answer to that. It's Ms. Smythe.
I know there is a section part of the trail.
Well, this back piece, I think, is part of the trail.
That is there, yes. The
But the
one
town-
immediately behind those on Michaela Crescent, I'm not too sure on that.
Unless it's part of a swale, is what
And
staff are saying, no?
if that's the case, yeah, if it is
swale.
part of drainage
Okay,
swale,
so-
then there would be.
Well, the drainage
Maybe-
swale actually of those houses runs in the backyards of all the houses
Right.
that run along here.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So
I'm
that's
just curious if
something,
that-
I'll have to
we'll
look
have to
into
get the
that.
answer. That's a great
Yeah.
question, and we don't have the answer in the room, so we'll have to get the answer.
Well, because it begs a question, if it isn't, then how do where's this path gonna go? Is
Right.
it just gonna dead end there, like?
Right.
Good question. Thank you,
That was one
Mr.
question
Downey.
I had. I'm opposed to this particular development. I'm not opposed to development, but this particular one just doesn't fit in that neighborhood. Welland Road's narrow. It's a 2-lane road, and if anybody's ever been there in the morning, the traffic there is a mess. People trying to make left-hand turns onto Pelham, it backs up forever. And then now if you have people trying to get into a gas station there, like it'll be a disaster. And I've lived there for 12 years. We bought new, and never once have I woken up and said, geez, I wish I had a gas station in my backyard. That's there's lots of gas stations around. There's lots of places to get oil. And that doesn't really, doesn't seem to fit that particular location. And I sent a letter in with some of my other concerns, which they've been echoed by Maureen's letter, which covered pretty much everything.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your comments and great question. Unfortunately, we don't have the answer. It's noted and it will be provided in any report that comes forward to us. Thank you. Others? Mr. Wigglesworth?
Yes, I agree with everything.
Hey,
that's
can you
been
give
said.
us your name for the
All
record?
right,
Just to...
my apologies, sorry. My name is Pat Wigglesworth. I live at 16 Michaela Crescent. I've lived in Fawn Hill. I lived in Fawn Hill for about 30 years. I moved away, returned to Fawn Hill about 5 years ago. We chose our house on Michaela because we want our children to have similar experiences that I had. Riding bikes, walking dogs, playing with their friends without too much traffic or noise pollution. Now, I love the direction that you've taken with the downtown, maintaining a small town, village type feel. It makes me wonder why you would want to turn agricultural space in the same town into an area that you can gas up and get an oil change. Now, people do not move to Fawn Hill in hopes that one day a third gas station or second oil change facility will soon arrive. People move to Fawn Hill in hopes to get away from all of the gas stations and oil change facilities. I know that's why we brought our family back to Fawn Hill and moved to 16 Michaela Crescent. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wigglesworth. Appreciate your feedback and your input. Are there others? Thank you, sir.
My name is Chris Wilmans. I'm also a member of the Pelham Chamber, Pelham and Walham Chamber. I'm also a kinsman. I've not been in the area a long time, but do you mind putting that other picture back on,
Sure.
the one before?
Sir, could you just give us the address, your address for the record?
4 Hunters Court.
4 Hunters Court, thank you.
This one here?
Yes, thank you. I agree with this letter as well. I have signed it. I also just want to point out there's two concerns. One, if that's going to become a ghost town in 5 years, and land contamination. I'm in the liability business, and that's a big issue. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your input. Contamination. Thank you.
My name is Patrick Clark. I live at 19 Michaela Crescent for 10 years. Just a few things. Maureen and the rest of the people here, I totally agree with everything they said. I'm the general manager at Welland Toyota. We can cover any or all oil changes. No problem. There's also Dodge City Chrysler that just moved in. There's 4 dealerships on Niagara Street. There's 2 lube stations on Niagara Street. There's 20 gas stations in Welland and Pelham alone. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the free commercial. I appreciate that, sir. Thank you. Sir, thank you.
26 Michaela Richards Safranios. I had an uncle who went to Pelham High School some 20, 30 years ago. I'm from Hamilton. When I finally came to this area, I wanted to live here. My wife and I have lived here for 12 years. We were one of the first residents on Michaela. I echo the same concerns that everybody has. I have a 10-year-old who takes a school bus. The traffic, the increase in traffic is very concerning to me. The noise pollution, the light pollution, possible environmental implications all concern me. I agree with everything my previous speakers have said.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stefano. Appreciate that. Sure. Would you mind just coming up here, Terry? And your name and address for the record.
My name is Terry Cutler. I live at 1112 Haste. I had no idea this was going on tonight. About 5 years ago, I went through the same kind of crap these people are about to go through. They don't deserve it. The elevation's changed. You severed a lot beside my house. I get washed out every year. I got forced a sidewalk that I didn't need. And I also got told that I thought, and didn't happen, that a telephone pole was gonna get put in my front yard. I'm still bitter about that, and you know it. This should not happen to these people.
Thank you, Mr. Cutler. Anyone else? Once, twice, thrice. Thank you very much for the feedback. We appreciate it sincerely. And appreciate, and there's still, we have the documents that have been provided, and we'll receive those in a moment. I think what's next is any input from members of council, any members of committee. Well, lots has been said. Is there anything that council wants to add? Councillor Durley or Pap? I see
Yes,
you're signaling to each other.
Councillor Durley. Just for the sake of clearing my mind about something here.
Yeah.
In 1991, the OMB designated some of the land located here commercial. Is this right?
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Yes, that is correct.
So in fact, before Michaela Drive was even thought about, there was a commercial element that was going to go on there. The only thing we're dealing with today is an expansion of that and perhaps a change of use to that.
That's correct.
Even though the real estate agent told these people that there's never ever going to be commercial to sell their houses. But
That's
anyway,
correct.
that's an argument for another day as well.
I believe the intended proposal at the time was to facilitate that gas station only in that section, so that's why it was zoned just half, and so the balance was just zoned the agricultural.
Okay, so if in fact the agricultural remains agricultural, that which was commercial is going to stay commercial and can be developed in certain manners,
Yeah,
right?
the 1.45 acres would remain the neighborhood commercial.
Okay, okay, and that existed
And that existed.
before the residential
That's
came in.
right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to comment, Councillor Pap, or anyone else? Sorry, I thought you signaled me, sorry.
Yeah, I did, and I just wanted to, I think Councilor Durley asked one question. The other thing is I wanted to just echo, I think without prejudice, that as someone who, I walk that area every day with my dog, and I watch how things have developed over the years, and I think those concerns that you have brought are very, very valid. Traffic particularly, the concerns about the safety, notwithstanding that we want a good development there, if in fact that's what we want. But I think it's important that we have spent a considerable amount of time, and many of you have echoed that, and you've heard me say it, you've heard others, in developing an appropriate vision and gateway for our town. And we need to keep that in mind when we move forward with any sort of development. And in this particular context, I think what we need to look at is carefully, once this application comes through, all those checks and balances to make sure that that's exactly what happens and doesn't jeopardize what we've been trying, which we have created, currently are living within, which we hope to in the future create. So, and then the other thing is just, I wasn't quite sure, Madam Planner, it mentioned something about residential. Is there any kind of, is there an opportunity? I think Mr. Grohowski mentioned something about of residential development on that side as well besides this? Is that true?
Ms. Smythe?
Mr. Mayor, through to you. That's correct. The zone currently allows for commercial on the ground
Right.
floor with residential on the above floor.
On the above?
That's correct.
Limited to one floor or?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
It says one unit, right?
One unit per commercial.
One per
So
unit?
one resident, like for each of those units, one residential unit could be above that. So if there's 5, then 5 residential units.
All right, I'll wait until the site plan agreement comes back and then, but I want to thank to the residents for the contributions. Very, very important. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Very
Mayor.
much. Others? Thank you. I have a question, Ms. Smythe. I'm looking at your report, which says that in the OMB decision that it shall include a gas station/bar and the permitted uses, but that's not on the website under the zoning. It just has the permitted uses, banks, barbershops, beauty salons. Can you, I don't know if you probably don't have it in front of you, but can you check that? It doesn't say anything in here about a gas station under NC 108.
Sure, I can check that and report back to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that because it's not listed here. It differs in the report. It's in the report, but not on the website as in the zoning. I want to echo some of the comments from members of council. I certainly appreciate, on behalf of all of council, the feedback from residents about this. We aren't making a decision this evening, and certainly one of the reasons why this occurs is for council to hear what area residents think about it, but it's also for the developer to hear what area residents and those in the area feel about it. So the next step is a report that would come with recommendations one way or another, or some changes, etc. And the developer may want to, given the feedback that he's received, may want to look at their plan. I'm going to stick my neck out here, members of council, and say that I do agree with the community. This is not what we want to see there, and I think it does stick out like a sore thumb to use comments. But so I look forward to some changes coming forward on that. With that, we now move to resolutions. It's been moved by Councillor Papp, and I need a seconder. That the Committee of the Whole received the issue sheet report. Councillor King. Report from official plan zoning amendment application AM 0713 for the subject parcel located at 1022 Pelham Street for information. And further, that committee directs the planning staff to prepare a recommendation report and present it to committee at a future meeting. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. It's moved by Councillor Kersey, second by Councillor Lane, that the correspondence received at the public meeting held on December 9th, 2013 regarding application for zoning bylaw amendment AM 0713 be received for information of the committee and referred to the Director of Planning and Development Services as follows. M. Seapuck, M. Chapman, M. and H. Downey, M. Jesu, and T. Henrihan. Any discussion? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carried. Thank you. Now move on to the next section. Thank you. Now we're done that planning meeting, and now we move on to the next planning meeting, which you're all welcome to participate in and join in, and that's regarding the arena rezoning on Hay Street. Maybe I'll take a two-minute break here as members of the public leave.
Taking a break?
I'll take a...
Yeah, let's take 5 minutes, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor.
Request from a councillor for a 5-minute break, is that?
Just cross your legs.
I withdraw my request for a 5-minute break.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
I can do what I need to do without taking a break.
We can. Heaven forbid. I don't want to sit.
All right, let's continue.
I don't want to know what that meant.
Mr. Mayor, is
Want
it
to take a
possible
break,
just
let's
to
take a
one
break,
moment,
whatever. 5 minutes here.
would like to leave and
No,
want to ask me a question, or do you want me just to tell them the email?
They can talk to you another time.
Yeah, they can talk to you another
Yeah,
time.
they don't need to talk to you now.
Sorry.
Thank you. The next section is an amendment to facilitate the use of public facilities. The Planning Act requires under Section 34 that council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public of the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw. The public meeting has been called to satisfy these requirements. Notice of the meeting was provided by prepaid first-class mail to all persons who are listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 120 meters of the subject property on November 18th, 2013. The notice provided information on the property and the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw as amended. In addition, the planning staff provided information on the application and will also receive any comments from any member of the public may wish to offer. There is, as I said a couple times this evening, an attendance list on the table, which we would ask all present to print their name and complete mailing address if they wish to be notified of the passage of amendment by council should this occur. If a person or body decides to file an appeal of the decision made by council in respect to the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw and does not make oral submission at a public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Pelham before the proposed amendment is adopted or refused, the Ontario Municipal Board may dismiss all or part of the appeal. In closing, I stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and therefore any and all comments received will be taken into account by council in our consideration. Ms. Smythe, can you give us an overview of the application, please?
Again, thank you. I'm here, again, on behalf of the planning staff to present this application for zoning bylaw amendment to permit the public arena, Kwanzaa hut, platform tennis, accessory structures, and buildings. And do you want me to put up the map? Okay.
Yes, please
sure.
do.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Smythe.
Okay. So to begin, the subject lands are located on the west side of Hayes Street, north of Welland Road, municipally referred as 1120 Hayes Street. The legal description of the subject parcel is described as Concession 9, Lot 3. To provide you with some context and a brief history of the parcel, the parcel is currently being utilized by 2 soccer fields, tennis courts, play structures, as well as accommodating the Pelham Public Arena, platform tennis, and accessory structures. So in this location is primarily where the soccer fields are, the tennis court. This is the paddle tennis facility, the Pelham Arena, and Kwanzaa huts back to the rear. I can try to zoom in as well. In 1974, the zoning bylaw number 279 was established and the subject parcel was identified as development, which permitted single-family detached dwellings, agricultural uses such as poultry farms, hatcheries, greenhouses, piggeries, and raising hogs, converted dwellings, household occupations, and accessory structures. In the spring of 1976, the arena was built, which was approximately the same time the bylaw number 279 was formally approved and forced into effect by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. In 1984, the town conducted a comprehensive zoning bylaw, which amended bylaw number 279, at which time the existing uses in the urban area were identified and the planning staff ensured that the regulations governing building and development was up to date and implemented the policies of the official plan. During this exercise, the parcel was identified as public zone, which permitted a public arena, municipal office, fire hall, police station, post office, and a library. In 1987, the town completed a new zoning bylaw, number 1136, 1987, as amended. And during this process, an administrative technical error occurred and the P zone was replaced with an open space zone. The open space zone allowed for private and public parks, conservation and forestry uses, cemeteries, museums, crematories, uses, buildings, and structures. Accessory there too. More recently, the Public Works and Utilities Department has completed an assessment of the municipality's public facilities, including the Pelham Arena. And it was concluded that minor interior and exterior improvements are required for that facility. During the review process of this application, planning staff recognized the technical and administrative error, which leads us here tonight to propose the appropriate corrections to the bylaw to allow for the uses on this parcel. Accordingly, when considering the zoning amendment application, the following current planning legislation is referenced. The parcel is located outside of the Greenbelt and Niagara Escarpment Plan areas, and therefore those policies are irrelevant. With respect to provincial policy statement, it speaks to the matter of building, again, strong communities. and efficient land use and development patterns. Specifically, section 1.51 of the statement, it states that healthy and active communities should be promoted by providing a full range and equitable distribution of publicly accessible built and natural settings for recreation, including facilities, parklands, open space areas. With respect to places to grow growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the subject parcel falls within the built boundary and growth plan, and it's all about building complete communities. According to Regional Policy Plan Amendment 2-2009, again, these policies relate to providing vibrant, sustainable, and complete communities and maximize the use of existing and planned infrastructure to support in a compact and efficient manner. Under the town's current official plan, the parcel is designated as public park, which permits the park, the municipal recreational facilities, and a walkway system. The adopted but not yet approved official plan designates the subject parcel as open space within the urban area and permits the buildings, structures to utilize recreational purposes, including arenas, swimming pools, and gymnasiums. As indicated earlier, the subject parcel is zoned open space. I'm just going to go back to the zoning. So this is the zoning map, the original zoning map in 1974. And I'm just going to zoom in here for you. Oh, right here. So it's this parcel here. In 1974, it was all designated or identified as D, so for development.
What's the H for, Ms. White?
H is hazard. So it's susceptibility to flooding or erosion or anything to that.
Thank
Right.
you.
So if we go, oops, sorry, I lost my. If we go to the amended bylaw 279, you will see down here, development, and then here it's the public zone. Okay. So in accordance with the Planning Act requirements, again, there was a public notice to engage full public participation, and the notice was issued on November 18th with all properties within 400 feet of the subject parcel. The notice, the poster was also placed facing Hay Street. During that 20-day notice period, several comments were received. To summarize, the concerns that have been brought to our attention, the planning staff's attention, is that local residents are under the impression that the proposed zoning amendment will change it from a park or recreational use to some sort of residential. So for members of committee and council and the public, the purpose of this amendment is to correct the inaccuracies of the bylaw such that the existing uses like the arena, the paddle tennis, accessory structures are permitted. So in addition to the public notice, notification was also circulated to internal departments and external agencies. And to date, all internal departments and external agencies' comments have no objections to the amendments, the proposed amendment. And I'd like to just say thank you for your time. And if there's
Thank
any
you.
questions.
Questions for Ms. Smythe from members of committee?
That's correct.
Did-
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Cutler, it's okay, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Cutler.
That's what I mean.
That's
right?
just a-
Nothing's gonna change.
Gary Cutler.
It's just
No.
fixing the D and the P and putting them together? Is that what I'm getting?
No, it's, maybe Ms. Smythe, you can identify it. It's really, it used to be as a P and now it's as open space, is that correct?
open space.
So right now, it's an open space zone.
Okay.
So we're going to correct that to replace it with a public zone that
recreational.
allows for the arena.
Okay.
And also the different accessory structures to
Yeah,
to
the old
that main
Quonset
facility.
hut and all that stuff. Okay, so nothing's gonna change, you're just rezoning. I'm going home. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cutler, for your input. And we'll, sure. Go ahead, sir. Why don't you go ahead? We already allowed Mr. Cutler, so go ahead and just state your name for the record and address, please.
My name is Bill Fleming. I live at 5 Rhodes Court, Font Hill. Number one question was, and you people answered it, was if it was zoned public initially, correct? And then I think in '84 again it was there was some modifications. Again it was a public zone only area. Then why would the town allow the existing Quonset hut to be built there? Why would the town be expanding their maintenance yard to that property as opposed to utilizing the maintenance yard that they do have right now? So I've lived there 3 years now, and what I see is not a public recreational area. What I see happening there is that now the Quonset hut was there about 3 years ago, but now we put asphalt down. The maintenance yard is doubled in size. The back of the maintenance yard where they park vehicles has grown. There used to be like maybe a couple of trucks there. Now there's probably half a dozen trucks there. There's trucks coming in there all the time during the day. This is a public facility. We have kids playing in using the arena. We have kids playing in the park, and we got maintenance dump trucks, you name it, coming into that area. Also, at the back of the arena, it's nothing but a dump right now. You got old concrete planters back there. They've probably been there for 20 years, never moved. You got wood. You got bleachers sitting there. You got nets for the soccer fields. Where they come from, I have no idea. Well, from what I see, this is a public place, which is now becoming part of maintenance yard, and I have no idea why that is happening.
Okay, let's get the answer from maybe staff, but Ms. Smythe, about the zoning of that, does the proposed zoning allow for that, the P public, or what would be, I'm just trying to look on the internet here about.
Discuss here that there's no right or reason that Quonset hut alone should not be there.
Yeah, Ms. Smythe, the zoning that allows for that, does the P zoning allow for that, or not?
The P zone would allow for that because it would be considered accessory to the main use, which would be the Pelham Arena.
No, I disagree.
So a use under the P would be, if it's accessory, it would be allowed, is that correct?
Yes, if it,
Okay.
the Quonset hut would not, it would be an accessory too.
Okay, so you disagree, sir, that it's not accessory, it's,
Sure, you got chipping machines in there that are. Is that a part of the looking at for the arena?
With respect to the maintenance concerns, that's something
Sure.
I'll have to bring forward with the Director of Public Works.
I mean, you got a Zamboni, fine. Other equipment, no.
okay. It's a good point, thank you. Are there other things you'd like to raise, sir? Okay. There might be something else. Anything further? No, thank you very much. Questions? Any other members of the public? Mr. Beckett? No? Mr. Grahalski? No? No other input? Okay, questions from?
Don't put a gas station in my backyard.
Okay.
You read my mind.
Can that be noted in the minutes? No, just kidding. Councilor Ribbiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm coming to understand more and more that what we are doing here is discussing the correction of a clerical error, a housekeeping matter. And from the look of the process, it sounds like we are going to require another meeting to do this, another discussion to do this. Is that necessary? Is this not something that we can correct by motion right away? I just want to.
This is a public meeting, so we're getting input from the public and.
So there's no opportunity for us to speed this process along. I mention that because, of course, there is development that the town wants to do that's needed within that area, specifically the provision of adequate facilities for staff, and it's going to be held up, I guess, further as we go through this.
They have no choice.
And it has to go through that process. Okay, fair enough. I need to know
Every developer has to go through, we're going through, Councillor. So,
yes,
Council wants to consider a way to speed that up, that could be done. Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm not exactly sure who I should direct this to, perhaps Ms. Smythe. What type of buffering exists between the backyards of the dwellings on Rhodes Court and the arena yard, per se?
Ms. Smythe?
Mr. Mayor, through to you. Currently, there is no existing buffering. It's
Perhaps that's
pretty
something
much
that we
open.
should take into consideration when we move forward on this, so that, the concerns that were raised here this evening might be addressed in that way by providing some buffering by way of fencing or plantings. That might help to ameliorate some of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a site plan approval required?
Currently, municipalities, there's no site plan requirement, but understanding the concerns to the adjacent residents, we'll definitely take this into consideration with respect to some sort of buffering.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything further from members of committee? Councillor Lane?
I might, Mr. Mayor, just on the topic raised by Councillor Kersey, I might suggest if the arena's been there for 40 years and it hasn't been buffered, that maybe we should not be using the area as a storage, and we could use Tice Road facilities for that type of stuff for which it is designed.
Thank you, Councillor. I think Ms. Smythe indicated she would pass this along to the Director of Public Works.
That's correct.
Any other committee input? There being none, thank you very much for the input. We appreciate it. It's been moved by Councillor Lane, second by Councillor Kersey. The Committee of the Whole received the issue summary report regarding zoning bylaw amendment application file number AM0813 for the subject parcel located at 1120 Hay Street for information. And further, that committee directs planning staff to prepare a recommendation report and present it to committee at a future meeting. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. It has been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, second by Councillor Drilley, that the correspondence received at the public meeting held on December 9th regarding application zoning bylaw amendment AM0813 be received for the information of committee and referred to Director of Planning and Development Services as follows. H. Bates, K&M Citrigno, and J and D Joseph. Any discussion? Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two of those three indicate that we don't want to change to residential. I wonder if we could have that corrected, that there was no intention whatsoever to do that, and it was mentioned in Ms. Smythe's report as well, that people thought we were changing something to residential. That wasn't the case. I don't know how that perception got out there, but could we somehow clear that up, that that was not the case whatsoever, and clear up that misunderstanding?
Mr. CEO? Can we write to the
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we
individuals
can
at the
notify,
direction
we can notify the individuals through correspondence that we're not rezoning residential. It's simply,
It seems like there's a failure to communicate here somewhere. If we didn't send the message out right, that's good, or if they didn't receive it right, but we should correct that, I think.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anything further to these, along with that staff direction, that be clarified? Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item has been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Drilley. This special meeting of Committee of the Whole be adjourned until the next regular meeting of committee scheduled for Monday, December 16th, unless sooner called by the mayor. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. This meeting is adjourned. Once again, thank you for all the public input. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Oh, thank you.
Got a long night. Yeah.
I might make it time for bedtime.